All right, hello and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into some of the most common skin conditions out there. We'll be taking a closer look at the science behind what's really happening inside our sebaceous and apicrine glands, those tiny, tiny structures that actually play a massive role in our skin's health. You know the feeling, right? You get a spot and you wonder, what did I do? Is it something I ate? Am I too stressed? Well, the real story is a fascinating biological process that starts deep, deep down in your skin. To really get it, let's have a quick look at what we'll be covering. So here's what's on the cards. First, we'll talk about our skin's natural oil. Then, what happens when there's too much of it. We'll get into the many different phases of acne, how to treat it, and finally, we'll quickly cover a few other common gland disorders. Right, then. First things first. Before we can get into what goes wrong, we've got to understand what's supposed to be happening in the first place. That means getting to grips with our skin's own natural moisturizer, a substance called sebum. It's pretty much the cornerstone of healthy skin. So what exactly is sebum? Well, it's a complex, oily mix, a sort of cocktail of fats made by our sebaceous glands. Now, here's the really interesting part. It's under what's called androgenic control. Think of it less like a tap you can turn on and off, and more like a factory where production is managed by hormones. And that, right there, is why things like puberty or hormonal shifts can have such a dramatic impact on our skin. And you might think sebum is just there to make your face shiny, but no way. It's a proper workhorse for your skin. It acts as a natural lubricant to stop your skin from drying out. It's also a bit of a security guard. It provides a weak defense against certain bacteria and helps keep fungus under control. It even gives you a tiny bit of sun protection. It really is our body's own all-in-one skin cream. So, we've established that sebum is definitely a good thing. But, as with most things in life, you can have too much of a good thing. And this is where our story really starts to get interesting. When your body starts producing way too much sebum, that condition is called seborrhea, and it's that really greasy, oily feeling on your face that I'm sure many of us are familiar with. The reasons for it can vary. It could be down to your genes, certain neurological conditions, or, you guessed it, those androgen hormones we just talked about going into overdrive. So how do we get from just oily skin to a full-on spot? Well, think of it like a 4-car pileup inside your pore. First, there's too much traffic. That's the extra sebum. Second, a roadblock appears. That's something called ductal hyperkeratinization. It's a mouthful, I know, but it just means your skin cells build up and block the exit. Third, some opportunistic drivers, in this case bacteria, take advantage of the gridlock and multiply. And finally, the emergency services, your immune system, show up, causing all that redness and swelling we recognize as a spot. Okay, let's just clear up a massive myth right now. The difference between whiteheads and blackheads. It's actually incredibly simple. A whitehead is a blocked pore that's closed off from the air. A blackhead is a blocked pore that's open. And that dark color on a blackhead, it has absolutely nothing to do with dirt. It is simply the gunk inside oxidizing. Think of it like an apple turning brown when you leave it out. It is not dirt. Right, so we've got the basics down. But here's the thing you need to know. Acne isn't just one single condition. It's more like a family of conditions, ranging from fairly mild and common to incredibly severe and distressing. Let's meet some of them. First up is acne vulgaris. This is the one you probably think of when you hear the word acne. It's the classic type that often affects teenagers and young adults, and it's usually a mix of those blackheads, whiteheads, and some inflamed spots. But then we get to the much more serious end of the spectrum. This is acne conglobata or nodulocystic acne. And honestly, this is a whole different ballgame. We're talking about large, deep, painful lumps, nodules, and cysts that form under the skin. And the source material does not mince its words about the consequences. It says, quite bluntly, that this form may end with ugly scarring. That's a pretty stark warning, isn't it? And it's exactly why getting proper, professional dermatological treatment for severe acne is so, so important. It's not just about today. It's about preventing permanent scarring for a lifetime. And then there's another specific type to be aware of, drug-induced acne. As the name suggests, this one isn't caused by the usual suspects. It's actually a side effect of certain medications, like corticosteroids, and it often looks a bit different, usually appearing as lots of small, uniform red bumps. Okay, so we've really dug into the problem and its many forms. Now for the bit I'm sure you've been waiting for. How do we fight back?
let's talk about the action plan for treating and managing acne.
When it comes to treatment, there are basically two main strategies. You can think of it like fighting a fire. On one hand, you have local treatments. These are like fire extinguishers. You apply directly to the skin to deal with a specific problem area. On the other hand, you have systemic treatments. These are more like calling in the fire brigade. You take them orally, and they work throughout your entire body to fight the fire from the inside out. So let's take a closer look at one of those fire brigade options, oral antibiotics, with tetracycline being a really common example for moderate to severe acne. Now, this is not a quick fix. It's usually a long-term commitment, prescribed for anywhere between 2 to 6 months, working to reduce bacteria and calm down inflammation. But, and this is a very big but, a powerful treatment like this comes with some pretty strict rules. It has to be taken on an empty stomach to work properly. It can make your skin way more sensitive to the sun, so you have to be careful. And this next one is absolutely crucial. It can cause permanent yellow standing on developing teeth. That's why it is never used during pregnancy or for any children under the age of 12. It's vital that you follow your doctor's instructions to the letter. You know, the battle with acne doesn't always end when the last spot finally fades. The after effects can be physical, things like scarring or changes in skin color, but it is just as vital to talk about the psychological impact. The source material explicitly lists depression as a potential complication, which is a powerful reminder that the effect on a person's confidence and mental health can be absolutely devastating. It's so much more than skin deep.
Okay, so we've gone pretty deep on acne, but it's not the only gland-related issue out there. For our final section, let's just quickly touch on a few other common disorders you might come across.
Right, here's a quick-fire comparison. First, look at rosacea. Key feature, it causes redness and spots in adults, but, and this is the giveaway, there are no blackheads. Next, miliaria, or prickly heat. This one's caused by blocked sweat ducts, not oil glands, a completely different system. And finally, suppurative hidradenitis. This is a severe chronic condition of the apocrine glands, a totally different type of gland found in the armpits and groin. So you can see, while they might look a bit similar sometimes, they are all very distinct conditions.
So there you have it, from the workings of a single tiny gland to the incredibly complex dance between our hormones, bacteria, and our own immune system. It's clear our skin tells a really complex story, and understanding that story is always the first step. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.